Welcome, everyone, to the 5th episode of the Raxdcast. Today we have a special guest, Mr. SoaringSloth, with us. He's somebody who was a pretty active Domcord member. That's where we first met back in 2016. And we've been pretty much like streamer buds ever since. Soaring actually has much of a larger following on Twitch than I do.
Oh my god.
Slightly jealous about that. No, I'm just kidding. But I just like to point out, by the way, that we were recording this a few minutes ago, and I realized 7 minutes into us talking that I had not recorded Soaring's audio. So that's a big F in the chat for Aurora. He's a big idiot. So how's the college life been for you?
It's been fine. I mean, I obviously, like I mentioned previously, I attended a different university with a different major. I originally majored in graphic design, and well, I was in a pretty predatory program. It was not really that fun, so I ended up leaving for I'd say until fall of the next year. But I'm currently studying game design right now, but I am kind of thinking about maybe focusing on something within that field rather than the actual major itself, if that makes any sense.
Right. Well, in that case, you have a lot of options because with game design, there's you could be somebody who does models for the game, or you could always be a sound designer.
No, yeah,
There's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean,
that's my general idea. It's obviously having a versatile tool set is good, but the saying of master of none is or master of all but nothing, I guess. I forget the saying, but it's jack of all trades, but
I
you're
get
not.
what you're saying. Yeah, but that definitely wasn't it. But you were close.
I'm sorry, I tried. But okay, obviously you can know a lot of things, but you won't be exceptional at any of them if you don't put the time and effort into some
Right.
things, if that makes sense. And that's kind of my general outlook on it. I want to get proficient at something, so I can at least say hey, I'm really good at this, and well, I don't know, if you gave me a budget, I could probably do this for you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I imagine it was the same reason for me, really, but you wanted to switch to a major that you were actually passionate about, so then it's not it's you're prioritizing your will to actually do anything in your field over the amount of money you get, because that's what I'm doing personally. I could have kept following computer science, and a lot of people were saying this. I don't know how accurate the statistic actually was, but they were saying people who graduated from my university with a computer science degree were averaging 75 grand a year right when they left college, which is crazy. But then again, I could tell just from the first year I was there, it would have been really hard for me to finish out the whole degree, and I'm really glad I switched now. And I really didn't think about it too hard going into college, because all my friends were going to this one school. I just decided to basically trail behind them and just find something, and didn't really put enough thought into it beforehand, and that was a mistake. I understand that where you live, though, the system for semesters is different, right? You have a quarterly system.
Well, it's just it's just my university. The first university I attended, it was semesters only. I mean, I think it's really just my private university in general. They only run in quarters, but I mean, my sister, she attends a community college right now that runs on I mean, oh wow, I'm slipping my words. She runs on a semester system, so I mean, I imagine it's pretty much the same thing down where you live as well. So it's more of just a me thing.
Yeah. It's I guess whether they're private colleges or not, most of the colleges where I live run within about 2 or 3 weeks of the same schedule. Some will give you a spring break, others won't. Some will give you more winter break, others won't. It's kind of the same for the high schools in the area, because actually, while I was going through high school, they kind of started changing it so that we had longer winter breaks, and I'm not sure where they've really taken that now, but there were rumors for a while that they would try to shorten our summer break and lengthen the other seasonal breaks, but pretty much every college I've ever heard of where I live is like running off the exact same system, which is interesting. I find it interesting that just your university does a different thing, but I guess they can do what they want with their organization and all their money they get from tuition. So.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, if anything, obviously, I love the quarter system when I like start in the false quarter because I mean, I enter later and I finish earlier, and while everybody like goes into like mid December, and I
Yeah.
obviously finish at Thanksgiving, but then I have to pay for it like when everybody gets out for summer break because I'm just like I got like 5, 6 more weeks by the time everybody gets out,
I see. Yeah.
give or
I,
take.
yeah. I think mentioned to Dom. I asked him like how living in New York was, just generally speaking, and I know you're an Illinois boy over there.
Hmm.
How's life like generally in Illinois? Like I know you commute to and from school like on a train. I've never had to experience
Yeah.
that, so I wouldn't know how the experience is. But how would you like describe that experience?
It is certainly not for everybody, but for someone like me, I personally think it's one of the best structures I have for attending university. Because I mean, all right, hear me out. Commuting on a train for an hour downtown and an hour back seems like, oh my god, that's insane. Why would you do that to yourself? But hear me out. For someone like me who kind of struggles to work in his home, and I already knew this like before quarantine was happening, of course, but the ability to like kind of go downtown and experience city life is in a way kind of actually a fantastic motivator for me to like go out and be productive because I'm like I'm walking in the big city of Chicago. I mean, it's kind of like a sense of urgency is there, like you got to keep hustling to do what you need to do and like just try to be your best person out there as like everybody else is.
I wish I like there's a part of me that wishes I was able to attend college like thus far in like the real core of my city, or at least some city with like a lot of people around it. I feel like that's something that everybody should experience at some point. Is like a really condensed like city life. I don't know,
Right.
specifically what parts of Chicago you're in, because obviously it's like kind of a spaced out city with different sections, as most cities are. But
Well, I mean, obviously, I commute like from the suburbs. I actually live like an hour away from Chicago. I ride through the little metro line they have, but it's overall really nice. Personally, I like not living in the city just because, I mean, well, I have a fondness for the suburbs. I like the peace and quiet of it. And like coming home to the suburbs after, I'd say, a long day, I'd say is really nice.
the only way I can really relate to like your commute is just the fact that I commuted from home, and it wasn't like the farthest drive. It took me like 10-15 minutes to get there. But I kind of did feel a tiny bit left out in the sense that I didn't have an actual dorm on campus, and like literally all my friends except one, stayed on campus. But I do think like financially speaking, commuting from home is like super smart to do because colleges overcharge way too much for housing. I'd still like to experience it at some point, and if I can't get a dorm on campus, then I definitely like to maybe move out early on my senior year and get an apartment somewhere and split the rent with somebody. In fact, I was talking to it was somebody in my server, but I was talking about how it would be a lot smarter to like find an apartment where you have somebody you at least vaguely know and be able to split the rent with them, because that way like financially again it's like way more smart to do. You're spending less
Hmm.
money a month, and you know
Of course.
I feel like when people first move out, like paying rent is the biggest struggle for them because it's like where most of their money's going. I don't want to oversaturate the podcast about talking about the quarantine, but me and you were gonna go to a thing called MomoCon in Atlanta.
Oh my god.
I think it would be happening in a couple weeks from now if it weren't canceled. But yeah, me and Soaring, we were gonna meet up in
Oh
Atlanta.
yeah.
Um, I don't even completely know what the convention was about. Just like a general like anime based convention.
I believe it started around the time I actually moved up here, which is quite ironic, but I know it's like kind of got a mix of everything. I know like there's a lot of like influencers that like attend there, including.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I know a few of them, and it kind of caught my interest around the time I left Georgia to move up here. But wow, this is a convention I'd love to attend. And well, I mean, there is still a lot of people in the area there that I probably would want to catch up with.
And I kind of did already cover this before on the podcast, but this summer I want to like go places, but it's kind of hard with everything. So I'm trying to think of stuff I can do that's considered, social distancing. Or if I can't social distance, I'm just with a couple friends that they've been safe and at home, so I can trust them.
Yeah.
With this going on, there are like slightly less people at a lot of tourist like places right now, which is kind of if you want to risk it, it's kind of an advantage. It's never recommended, but I am a person that kind of has to do something over the summer. I mean that's one of the reasons I'm like trying to make more content and do stuff and manage all this. It's also kind of a good strategy to implement like early on. Kind of the whole adulting thing, having more responsibilities. I might as well like practice having a lot on my plate and being able to handle it efficiently.
I think about it. Weren't you planning on working on some stuff over the summer?
Yeah, I was. There's a space show thing I'm gonna be working on, and
Ooh.
again, I haven't really talked to you about it, so I might cover it just to talk to like you personally about it. But I did make like half of the last podcast episode just about like
Oh, really?
me working on that. But Blender, by the way, is way more powerful than I thought it was like 2 or 3
Ooh.
years ago because I had heard about it and I think I downloaded it because I was following this Unity tutorial on how to make like a maze game. And it involved you using Blender to make the level, and so that's all I really used it for. And I'm like, yeah, this is pretty neat. But like,
Mm-hmm.
now they've really put a lot into it, and even I've seen videos people made with it back in like 2012 that were pretty impressive even for today's standards of like an individual person making it. But like I personally know almost nothing about modeling, but through Blender I've been able to kind of become at least knowledgeable in how to model. And there's a lot of really like easy to use tools on there to like quickly be able to model stuff. Like for instance, I'm trying to make a spaceship, and in
Ooh.
Blender there's a tool where it'll mirror the other side. So you basically only make one half to the ship and it automatically like models the rest for you. So you only have to do half the work basically.
I've been kind of wanting to get into Blender for a while. I mean, I took a 3D modeling class during winter, and well, obviously it's using, the funny, expensive version, Maya. And well,
Yeah.
I kind of wish I got into Blender because I mean, not only is it free per se, but I mean, like, it seems like there's a lot more general use in the like field I'm working on.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not into 3D modeling but just want to get into it, I highly recommend it because, like, I've just gone through a wormhole of Blender tutorials on how to do so much stuff. You can do, like, cloth and water simulations. You can do really accurate, like, reflections. You can use the thing they have called nodes, which you can use to make, like, glass shaders and, like, real looking materials that couldn't be easily reproduced in a lot of other free programs, to be fair. Like, one thing I found really interesting about it is that like Blender and Cinema 4D are almost identical in like their physics and all that. Obviously, like Cinema 4D is a little bit better and you can like take it a little bit farther, but like side by side comparisons I've seen with it, it's like just because Blender's free, it makes it look so much better because Cinema 4D is like you have to pay some monthly thing now, but I think like to buy it, it used to be like a few $1,000s,
Yeah.
and that's insane. That like I think it was developed by some people, like a group of people in Sweden or something, but it's crazy, man. That they just keep like making updates for it, and it keeps getting better and better.
I don't know. I'm probably gonna plan on using Blender a bit more. I mean, if anything, seeing not only you, Fancy, and a couple others I know, like, get like, or like, are familiar with Blender to like a good amount, I think that's just like kind of cool. And well, personally, I kind of want to like, maybe I just want to add another tool to my horizons, but like, I think it'd be a cool tool to use.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I don't know. I find it really cool that you're structuring like your summer already to this degree. So like, I mean, personally, that's something I do, and I'm like still trying to find like what I kind of want to do with my summer right now. So I think the fact that you already have your roadmap kind of like set in stone is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like at the same time like formatting it, but then actually like following through with that completely is going to be difficult for me as a person who likes to procrastinate and fall out of order with everything. But we'll
Oh yeah,
see. We'll see where it goes. Step one right now is just having a video queue, and that's going pretty well right now. My motivation to like do this in the first place was really like last summer. I literally just like did nothing. Like I can't really. I was just on the computer all day from like the time I get up, and then I'd maybe go outside for half an hour, but then come back, and it's like, can I really say at the end of the summer that I've become like a better person necessarily? Like intellectually, have I learned anything? And I really didn't.
I think it's good that you're trying to take it like that. I mean, personally, I think summer break for everyone is far too long in the sense that like, oh, I have so much time and I probably don't know what I'm going to do with all of it. I think if you plan on doing nothing for like the supposed 3 months you have off, I think it's just a giant detriment to like your growth as a human. Just because I mean, all right, if you're coming out of like let's say university or even high school per se, like and not really like trying to be productive, I mean, all that knowledge you've probably gained over like past several years are probably gonna like come out of your noggin within the span of like a couple months. Obviously, when I was like, under 16, I mean, I didn't really go work or do anything over my summer. I'm just like, gee, I have way too much time. I'm just like, I mean, that's kind of another reason why I'm kind of happy university kind of, I mean, at least in your sense, like attempted to like try to span out like the amount of like free time you have over break, at least in terms of summer. They tried to like pad it out over spring and winter.
I feel like at this point, like, and it's mostly because I've matured a lot, but like, in the summer of 2014 and 2015, I literally just played Minecraft almost every day. And that's more acceptable for somebody younger, but especially if you're going into college, you got to understand like going into adulthood that you need to pretty much be learning or working most of your life. And honestly, right now, I feel like learning a lot.
No, yeah, that's like a good mentality to have. I mean, it's something that I'm still trying to like, comprehend my mind around. I'm no longer a kid, okay? I'm 20 years old. I need to go out and actually like, you know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say make a name for myself, but I mean like obviously like try to do something with my time that like I can say is, quote unquote productive. So,
You never can predict the future, so you don't really know like if there's anything good that can come out of it, but you'd usually be surprised.
no,
I mean,
yeah. I mean,
I've had kind of like photography and video making as like a part-time hobby of mine, like unofficially, and that was part of the reason I was able to get my first job as a photographer for like used cars. They knew that I had my own camera and I was skilled with taking photos and not screwing them up. What's your like just whole approach to speedrunning, or like how do you like speedrunning like those games?
the thing that's very special about speedrunning is that you can customize it to your liking. I mean, let's say like you're interested in platformers or something, like you could speedrun a game like that and like probably have a good time with it. Or maybe you aren't interested in like, like all those like fast exploits or like frame perfect tricks. There's games that obviously don't require that much experience. I mean, not to mention, I mean, maybe hold that like fond attachment to like that one important game that's like, been sitting in your garage collecting dust or something like you're like, I love this game with all my heart and I don't want to let go of it ever. So
I'm one of those people that's not into the games that require, like, as far as speedrunning, like an immense amount of concentration and skill. And getting over it's kind of like that. Like usually when I get a PB, I think it's like a bad run, and then it ends up being a really good run. But it's like that game is mostly muscle memory, because even though the controls are janky, after playing it so many times, it like becomes super super easy. It's crazy though, like how far I've come through that. Like the first time I beat it, it took me 10 hours, but then the next run took me 49 minutes, and the run after that was like 20 minutes. So like you can tell instantly that like the muscle memory kicks in and like you know how to overcome the different obstacles in the game. I think that kind of applies to like stuff like Deltarune though, because I imagine you eventually learn like I know there's those people that like kind of zigzag in the hallway that you have to avoid, and like
Yeah.
you learn like the perfect spot to go to avoid them and all that, and it becomes like a muscle memory thing where as long as you keep doing it, you're like really efficient at beating it fast.
No, yeah, muscle memory is a big factor into speedruns in my book. I don't know. I find speedrunning to be a fun, like, little hobby, mostly because, I mean, I've hopped around from game to game, and well, I think obviously, like, there comes a point where I get more frustrated than having fun. So at that point, I'm just like, you know what? I think it's time to go, like, jump to a new game or like something that like I'm interested in. Because I mean, if it's not fun, why bother? A quote from Reggie.
Nice. You just dropped a Reggie quote on me with no warning, really?
Of course, man. What? How could I not?
Well, you live close to Chicago, and I know that Chicago deep dish style pizza is a big thing. Do you like it?
Here's my hot take, okay? I think deep dish is fine if you have it like once in a while, okay? Because like personally, deep dish is a lot, okay?
Yeah.
If you've seen like okay, you've seen a deep like a picture of it, like they're
Mm-hmm.
basically like their own like little pies instead of like actual like pizza. They're a lot to take in because I mean like you could have like quote unquote one slice of that and just be kind of done because I mean it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of bread, sauce, and well cheese. I mean there's just a lot of everything.
That's true.
Having a lot of that, I mean you're gonna feel terrible, man.
The only problem with like deep dish pizza for me personally is like I don't know why I started doing this, but I learned that people from New York fold their pizza in half. And naturally that's just what I do. Even if I don't have to, just out of habit, I fold my slices of pizza in half before eating them cuz it kind of makes like a little calzone thing, but
Yeah.
like I can't do that with deep dish pizza now. So like
No, you can't.
I've kind of almost subconsciously switched my taste to like more thin crust pizza. But there was a really good, it was a local pizza place where I live, and they had really good thin crust pizza, but they didn't really advertise it as thin crust. They just like made it from scratch, and it just had a thin crust on it. But it was there was like a pesto chicken pizza they had, and it slapped so hard, bro. They even had like some feta cheese on it, and
Oh my
these are
god.
like all things I was like, that can't be good on a pizza. That is a sound. It was the best pizza I've ever had. Won it like top three easily.
Oh my god. You're like making me hungry as we speak, man.
It easily, that specific pizza for me out top like Papa John's pizza, which is like my number one like chain pizza place. Marco's is like a close second.
I don't think I've actually ever asked you this. I think about it. I mean, obviously you're focused more on like your own like personal endeavors, but I mean like aside from speedruns and all that, do you have like a general taste in like game choice? I mean, is there like an IP that you just are like I absolutely love?
The weird thing about me, I'm gonna be honest, is that in a lot of different mediums, I am like all over the place. Like I listen to almost every genre of music you could possibly imagine. It just depends what mood I'm in. And I guess some people can relate, but like I actually listen to like pretty much everything. Like if it's your favorite band, I could probably at least acknowledge the band is pretty good. Like
I
I'm
gotcha.
that all around guy, but like I can apply that to games because I have pretty much every genre of game. There are a couple exceptions with that. I do not like certain role playing games. I don't like stuff like D&D or Magic the Gathering. It's just never interested me.
Right.
Um, but like I don't know. When I was younger, I probably would have said racing games because on my Xbox 360 I had Forza Motorsport 2, which I was really impressed with for it being made such a long time ago, but like the graphics look good. And this is talking about like I played in like 2014 or 2015 and I was impressed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've always been like a racing games guy, and I have like some Need for Speed games on Steam. I think I have Grid 2 on Steam. I have Project Cars on Steam. Um, The only one I really played is Need for Speed Undercover, I think it's called. I can't remember if that's the Wii game or not, and I'm just remembering it wrong. But one of the Need for Speed games I've actually played all the way through, and I really like them. I just like how like the experience of going from like a really crappy car to one of the best cars ever is really nice.
I feel that. Progression.
Other than that, I'm kind of like recently I've been playing more mainstream stuff, but at the same time, like the more I play mainstream stuff, the more there's a voice in my head telling me to play more obscure stuff. So right now, I don't know. I kind of been going like with both. Like I really like Valorant. I really like Call of Duty Warzone. You know that whole thing. I like Minecraft. I like Roblox. It depends what we're playing. There's also some obscure games. Like I'm really into really cheap Steam games every once in a while. I just
No, yeah.
like the fact that they're built so crappy and they're like 50 cents on the Steam store. I'm like, why not? This is a good use of my money, and like it's just laughable every time. Like it's a different experience, but I think I did a video on that in 2018. There was a game called There Is a Genie in My Szechuan Sauce, and it was
Really?
terrible.
Oh my
It was
god.
like, it did like IRL cutscenes. It just looked like a crappy skit with like a camcorder made by these two like German kids or whatever.
Oh no.
I couldn't, they had an accent of some sort, but, and then it was like you had like a menu on the screen where you had to click your response, and it was like really funny the way they did it.
Personally, I've like kind of tried to like connect myself with a bunch of like other people, and well, I feel like one of the things that I don't know I found kind of prominent while I was in there is that I think I just really didn't do much while I was in there, like per se. Like I didn't like try to like go and like do something productive on my own time. I was always like constantly just like, all right, what's the chaos today? There's quite a few people like I actually want to learn from, including you, man. I mean, you're the mastermind on YouTube. I mean, come on.
It did actually dawn on me like a week ago. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm actually gonna hit 1,000 subs. Like it's gonna happen.
No, yeah.
Just looking at like how many I'm gaining a day, it's gonna happen in like a month, which is crazy. One thing I definitely changed about my outlook on YouTube, going from hectic to Aurora XD, is like if I constantly obsess over the numbers, it's not gonna make me happy. And I really doubled down on that recently. Like it's cool to check every once in a while, but it's not cool to like constantly just be hunched over your screen like watching to see. I guess it's different if it's like you're actually looking at the data to see like what YouTube's recommending, which I do occasionally. And I actually do plan on making a sequel to one of my videos that's like really blown up. It's like it's just Minecraft with proximity voice chat is the
Oh
gimmick, but
yes.
it just hit like 10,000 views. But the point is like I'm not. I feel like I'd be a lot better in the mindset of like not even checking within like the first day or like even week of a video coming out how well it has performed, and just let it sit there and be happy with what I put out. And I kind of had this realization after watching one of the Blender artists I really like. In fact, his name's CG Matter. If you want to
Hmm.
watch him, it's on his second channel, and it's a really good point he makes. Responding to somebody else about monitoring like your social media usage and making sure you don't get like sucked into the toxicity. Social media is constructed for you to like react to like other people's posts. Like on Instagram, it's like when you post something, like no matter who you are, you at least go back and check to see how many likes you made, and that's like the start of it. But like some people can fall like further and further down to where they're just obsessed with it.
No,
And
yeah.
yeah, it was a problem with me, especially when I was like bored. I just do it constantly, and I didn't talk about it a lot, but it was a problem. I literally every single morning check my sub count, every afternoon check my sub count, and it's like,
Hmm.
my audience does matter to me, but like it's not healthy to be doing that, at a certain point. And I don't know, just from all the experience I've had, it makes me a lot happier to look at it like that. Like I know the last 3 videos I've put out, I just like checked the comments once and that's it. It's been getting better for sure. And again, I don't want to like completely ignore necessarily what people think of it, in some aspects, but it's like it was kind of unhealthy for me to be doing that, but I'm glad that I kind of made a turnaround, and I haven't completely stopped doing it, but I've certainly gotten a lot better at doing it.
Numbers, I mean, I try to keep telling myself not to take seriously because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you I mean, you can't force somebody to like obviously engage with you like constantly every single day, okay? I mean, like that's like inhuman, okay? Everybody's got a life. And so do I, man. Like, I don't know. I just like try to like look in like the perspective of others because I mean, I've met people
Yeah.
that I'd say they relate to me a lot. I mean, like I obviously just kind of want to do content that I care about, but I think they take numbers a little too seriously, and that kind of like
Yeah.
hurts them a lot because I mean they're constantly like really trying to like push to meet new people, and then actually kind of pushing a lot of other people away at the same time
Yeah.
because they're so fixated on numbers.
Well, thank you, Soaring, for being in this episode of the Raxdcast. It was really good talking to you. I would say something like you could watch or listen to this podcast on SoundCloud, but the Raxdcast account on SoundCloud has hit its upload limit, so as of now, we're just a YouTube exclusive podcast. Yeah, hopefully we can take a rain check on like visiting a convention together. Maybe that'll make an Aurora XD video in the future. Who knows?
No, yeah, of course.
But yeah, appreciate it, dude, and thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Raxdcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Hoorah.